Fearless and Free is the name of my talk today. This month, just 10 days ago, we celebrated claiming our independence from England. Our nation was founded on religious freedom with the core idea of liberty and justice for all. I think the U.S. has been known as the land of the free because it's rooted in spiritual principle. We are one universal family under God. And after writing the Declaration of Independence was complete, Benjamin Franklin noted, "We can now get to the business of discovering our divinity within our humanity." I never knew he said that until I did this talk. We can now get to the business of discovering our divinity within our humanity. And that's what I want to talk about today. Our individual independence, the business of discovering divinity within our humanity. What is freedom to you? What is divinity to you? What does it look like and what does it feel like to be your most authentic, beautiful expression of God? What does the phrase, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free," mean to you? Last week, Nancy spoke of the fearlessness it takes to be our best selves. The selves we came here to be, our optimum selves. She gave us an affirmation. I am receiving and living into my optimum life. And then last month, I spoke about truth. And a few weeks ago, Krista talked about denials and affirmation, which remind us of the truth of who we are and the truth of situations. A few weeks back, as a community, we created a new vision. Unity Center of Norwalk celebrates all creation as radiant light of God, unified in peace, joy, and love. And our mission says how we're going to do that. We empower individuals to be their authentic selves through practical spiritual teachings, music, inspirational messages, affirmative prayer, meditation, fellowship, and fun. So we have all these ways that we can get in touch with that authentic, blessed part of ourselves. These are expansive ideas, but they may bring up some fear within us. But fear is a liar, right? That's what Kenneth just told us. Knowing the truth is to know you are one with Spirit and one with each other. But yet, there are 30 or 40 of us sitting here. So how could that be? I will tell you how. We are each a ray of sun of God. We are each a wave of the same ocean of God. We are created in the likeness and image of Spirit of God. We are all that is. So beginning here, how can we show up as anything other than beauty and love and joy and all other amazing things we see and label as God? You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free is a universal truth that is for everybody. When you come to know that, you are really free, that all people are free. Jesus was a prophet and a teacher. He taught the universal teachings that bring people together in spirit of oneness, kindness, and love. Human beings are pack people. This is our pack, right? And as a pack, we embrace all people. Freedom is the gift that we channel. For one thing, we are free to think the thoughts we want to think and know that we are affected by these thoughts. This begs the question, are your thoughts ones of unlimited freedom or ones of limitation? To receive and give into my optimal self, they have to be thoughts of freedom, right? I can't imagine my optimal self is one of limitation. None of us are limited. We may think we are, but we are not. The truth is we are not. Krista began this journey by asking us to look at our prayer life, our denials, and our affirmations. Nancy went on to encourage us to meditate and step into the optimal self that we see in our meditations, in our mindfulness moments. We need an understanding heart for ourselves and others. We actually need all 12 powers to stand in this place of empowerment, authenticity, and freedom. In case you don't know, I'm going to go through them right now, briefly. The power of faith, which is the ability to believe and to intuit and to hear and to have conviction. The power of strength, which is the ability to endure, to stay the course, to be persistent, to persevere and be stable in our thoughts of freedom, even when it doesn't look like or feel like we're free. Our power of love, which is the ability to feel affection for, to desire, to attract oneself to harmonize with and unify. The power of wisdom, which is the ability to judge, evaluate, discern, be wise, appraise, and apply what you know. The power of will, which is the ability to decide, to choose, to direct, and to determine. The power of imagination, which is the ability to visualize, conceptualize, and envision. I think many of us, as adults anyway, forget or think we don't have. I know I thought I didn't have an imagination, but give me one thing to worry about, and my imagination was wild, right? So it's about shifting that thought. You know, it's also, I don't know if you ever heard the expression, we all have faith. It's just, what do we have faith in? Do we have faith in what can go wrong, or all the things that could be negative, or do we have faith in good and faith in God? The power of understanding is the ability to know, to perceive, to comprehend, and to spiritually see. The power of dominion is the ability to master, dominate, and control base senses, which is our senses in the body, thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. And then our power of zeal, which is the ability to be enthusiastic and passionate, as well as to inspire and motivate oneself. And Saturday's daily word was, our interests and desires are divinely inspired. They are the way we bring love and energy of God into the world. When we bring our excitement and passion into our lives, it is not just for us. It is for everyone, so that may feel inspired and pursue and share their gifts. This is how the presence of God is made manifest in this world. My excitement kindles the excitement of others. Today I will share my passion and inspire others to share theirs. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. That's from Psalms 118:24. And then we have the power of order. Now this is the power to, and Betsy read it beautifully today, the power to and the ability to organize, sequence, balance, and adjust. But it's also the power to put your order in. You wouldn't call up Amazon and say, give me whatever you got, right? You put in your request based on your heart's desire. So you put in your order to become the divine order, and then you ask, what is mine to do next? So that you're putting the footwork in to what it is that you've asked for what your heart is desiring. And then we have the power of renunciation, which is the ability to release, remove, denounce, deny, and to let go of. That's a big one, because we have to make room, right? To let go, and then we make room for what is coming, the new stuff. And then there's life, the ability to energize, revitalize, enliven, and make whole. What are you giving life to for your freedom to be? So that's one way that you could choose, the path that you can choose to become free, is by empowering and enlivening every one of those powers as often as you can. As Reverend Michael Gott said, the bottom line is fearlessness and freedom are an inside job. And that's what Nancy and Krista and I talk about. Ernest Holmes says, the divine plan is one of freedom. The inherent nature of man is ever seeking to express itself in terms of freedom, because freedom is the birthright of every living soul. So whatever issue you have going on, you can trace it back to a lack or a loss of freedom, or a thought of a loss of freedom, whether it's finances, relationships, health, work, whatever. Under all conditions, there is a thought or a belief, and it could be one of freedom or it could be one of bondage. When I move from the outer world into the creative mind that is within me, and find my freedom here, then I can be truly free and begin to express a life of freedom. This is what it's all about. So the freedom we are looking for is not from physical constraint, because if it were, there would be people with physical disabilities who would never be able to experience freedom, correct? Everybody's got to be able to experience freedom. It doesn't matter how we show up on this planet, because we were all born as a child of God. It comes from an internal realization of the presence of God. That is who we are. Whatever's going on, there is freedom here and now. Ralph Waldo Emerson says, freedom is not the right to live as we please, but the right to find out how we ought to live in order to fulfill our purpose. And there it is again, our purpose, right? What is that? Who are we in God? To live a life of fulfillment, living as we ought to live. I know I still have those ideas that if I could just get people to do what I want them to do, I'm going to be free. Or if I can just get people to drive the way I want them to drive, I'm going to be free. Or maybe it's, why did you do that to me, the thought. And instead changing those thoughts around to looking at what is it I could do here? How can I change my thinking about that? This is never true, because that is not the source of our freedom. Changing other people is not the source of our freedom. The source of our freedom comes from within us. Manipulation does not give us freedom. Maybe it gives us the illusion of control for a moment, but that's about it. It's very short-lived. Freedom comes when we move into authentic experience and expression, living life as God created us. Let's look at blame and responsibility. Nobody can take away what we put into our own minds, and nobody can put thoughts into our heads. When we blame, we are a child again. We have put ourselves back in the place of being a child when we think, if they would only, or it's all your fault, or you're the reason I am not free. We are then back in our childhood. And that's never the truth. To really inhabit freedom, we take responsibility for our own experience fearlessly. We live in a time of division. Violence is from people who take their bondage out on others. People who are not free are inflicting their own bondage out to the outer world. And the violence that we see in this world comes from people who are enslaved in false ideas. So it comes from people who are so tormented in such an internal bondage, the only thing they can do is dehumanize another human being, act out, and try to get their freedom that way. It'll never work. It is not who we are. Brene Brown, who is a research psychologist with a good understanding in science around the human psyche, she says we are biologically wired to not hurt other human beings. So what happens for these people who hurt others as they no longer see them as humans? It is called dehumanizing them. It's either a person or a group that they dehumanize. And what am I asking and inviting us to do today is to come back to an interior truth of freedom in spirit. Try to remember every time we see an act of violence, we are not seeing a person who is free inside themselves. We take this to lesser offenses such as dishonesty and lying. People who lie don't feel like they can show up and be present to who they really are. They're not free inside themselves. They're not in touch with their own authentic God expression. So the work that we do here inside for what we see outside, it's all within. We use our fear to dig deep and say, what am I afraid of? We have to be fearless to even ask the question and be willing to dig in. It's an inside job. We all come with baggage of family history handed down by generations of people that could only do so much of the work. Remember a few weeks ago I said, what is not transformed is transferred. So what has been transferred is not true. It's not the real me. It's about me just looking at this stuff and no longer believing it, figuring out what it is and letting it go. As I shared a few weeks ago, we had no filters until we were 5 or 6 years old. So we took in a lot of wrong information. Another idea about this is whatever was going on around us all those years, those first 5 or 6 years, we made up stories about them. We made up stories about what it is, because what could we know at that age, right? One of the stories I told myself was I'm one of 7, and there were 6 of us before I was 6 years old. So one of the stories I told myself was there wasn't enough love to go around. So I was not lovable enough to get the love I needed. That was just, nobody said that to me. That's how I interpreted it as a 6-year-old to what was happening. And here I am, 65 years old, still undoing that, still learning the truth about myself, right? Another story I told myself was I was unworthy because my mother had postpartum and she didn't want to hold me for the first 6 months of my life. That's another story I have to undo every day. I have to think about what is and it's so unconscious, like I have to be mindful of the thoughts I'm telling myself and undo those thoughts. Give myself truth thoughts. Our work is to see the truth and release the lies. Then we can be free to be our best selves. Then we can step into being the loving, creative, generous soul we came here to be. When we do the healing work within, then we can reshape the experience of life itself. The outer work is an expression of our inner knowing. We use denials and affirmations, first to release the false belief and the power that it has over us. That's really what we're releasing. The thing might have happened, right? My mother did go into postpartum. I have to release the thought that I'm unworthy because of that. That's the piece that I have to work on. Affirmation is the lining up the conditions of my life with the inner reality. It is directing in a conscious way the continuous flow of God's creative energy. So the affirmation is, I am worthy. I'm a child of God, and I inherit the kingdom. That's the truth, right? So that's what I have to keep telling myself whenever I feel unworthy. Each of us has this potential. Each of us has this gift. We do it individually, and therefore collectively we're affected by it. Thomas Jefferson said, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that all people are created equal. I'm going to change that. All people are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Your right to a great life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness isn't just yours, it's everybody's, no matter how they look. So what is your life? What does liberty look like to you? What do you pursue for happiness? What is your purpose? Now, Megan Watterson, who is a writer and a spiritual leader who uses Mary Magdalene and Mary Magdalene's writings as her teacher, says, purpose is who we are, not what we do. Who I am is a fragile human ego and an eternal soul. My purpose is to live out the full expression of both of them. So for me, it's speaking and teaching is what I'm meant to do, to be on purpose. What I mean is, if our purpose is to be both fully human and fully divine, I can practice that cocktail of extremes the most exquisitely way for myself in showing up and speaking and teaching. Because speaking asks me to bring love to where I am most human. I am most vulnerable, the hardest on myself, the most critical, and the most insecure in my speaking. So the depths of the love that I might be also is called on for me to speak. So what is the one thing that demands you love yourself fiercely in order to do it? All the while remembering that you are perfection. You are made in the image and likeness of God, every one of us. Everything that does not line up with that perfection is a false idea, a false belief. As Michael Beckwith says, our spiritual work is not additive, it is subtractive. It is letting go of the things that are no longer true, that never were true. And that's the power of renunciation. Find the false beliefs and let them go. Discover uncover, and recover. And discover may take many forms, right? It could take the 12 powers. It can take prayer. It can take denials and affirmations. It could take talk therapy. It could take ayahuasca. There's so many ways that it could be taken. But it's about making the commitment and being willing to do the work, being fearless about it. So whatever it is, the journey of being fearless then becomes the journey of being free, because the truth will set you free. Anyone who separates you from the truth of your being, anything that stands in the way of your relationship to God, to the infinite, is your personal bondage. As long as we are connected to and living in those beliefs, we are in bondage and therefore not free. I am asking that we consider our assumptions, our beliefs, and move into a new place of freedom. Are you willing? Because if you're willing, you will find a way. Look at your biases. Look at those old beliefs. Something amazing is about to happen. Are you ready to experience that kind of freedom in your life? We're ready to see you. We're ready to see that light shine. So to summarize, we have fearlessness and freedom are an inside job. What is your road to freedom? What is your road to an internal realization of the presence of God? What is the one thing that demands you love yourself fiercely in order to do it? Do this all while remembering that you are perfection. What is it to discover, uncover, and recover? What is that journey for you? You are a beautiful, radiant light of God. Please show up and share your light. Thank you. I'm your sister in prayer, possibility, and power. I see you, I appreciate you, and I love you. Until we meet again, know that you are blessed and a blessing.